Welcome to the Weekly Roar, coming live from the Lion's Den, helping new managers become great leaders and awesome bosses.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Weekly Roar. Thanks for jumping into the Lion's Den today for the watch party. Today, I'm talking about another concept in the foundations of leadership. But before we jump into today's topic, I'm Greg Storch. My business is called Lion Enterprise. It's a leadership development and coaching business. I'm a certified professional coach and a certified leadership speaker and trainer. Last week, I continued my series called Follow the Leader, Concepts in the Foundations of Leadership, and I spoke about the importance of having clarity and foresight as a leader to be able to clear the path for your team and to take them on a successful journey. If you tuned in last week's broadcast, then you caught the story of how my wife's job in the Navy to navigate the ship served as a great example of the concept that I was talking about and how important it was that she chart that course. If you didn't catch it, just go to my website at lion-enterprise.com, click on the Lion's Pride Library, and you'll see all my videos right there so you can get to them. Okay? All right. You guys, let's go ahead and kick this thing off this week. Today's concept is all about math. Ugh, I hate math. But when it comes to leadership, this basic concept is going to serve you well, I promise. The best way I can describe this is like this. As a leader, when you add, you multiply. But when you subtract, you divide. Whew, that sounds like a complicated trigonometry equation or some kind of calculus. Today, I've got a few stories that I'm going to share with you about how this concept has played a role in my own success as a leader. And I hope that you're going to pick up some things and you'll be able to use them as you develop as a leader as well. Hey, don't forget, as I go through these concepts each week, you should be making a personal assessment of each one of these things, of how well you're doing with that particular concept. Rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 each week, where 1 is that you aren't doing it at all, and 10 is that you feel like you're doing it very well already. Probably not going to have a lot of 10s because we don't do everything perfectly, right? There's always room to improve, but keep a tab so you have an idea that when I wrap up the series in September, you'll have an idea of where you're strong or where you're doing well, and more importantly, what areas you need to focus more on to improve as a leader. All right, this concept can be challenging for a lot of people, and it's not because the concept's complicated. It's actually pretty simple. It's a challenge for people because by nature, we tend to be a little selfish. We're selfish human beings. I admit it. I've been accused on several occasions of being selfish and thinking of only myself. We're not perfect, but when you tend to look inward first, when you're always looking out for yourself, then you're going to struggle with this concept in the foundations of leadership. Why? Because it requires you to make a shift from being selfish to selfless. I spoke last week about how I was a career Navy man and how I moved from the enlisted ranks to becoming a commissioned officer. And one of the pervasive messages that I was given during my journey was that I have to look out for number 1 because nobody else is going to do it. Basically, if I was going to make things happen, if I was going to go to school and get my degree and become an officer, I was going to have to do it on my own. What a horrible message to send to somebody. Now, at that time, it motivated and pushed me into action. That was the good result. But the bad result of that message, the bad result of that mindset was that I always felt that nobody had my interests in mind. Nobody cared. Everybody was in it for themselves, and nobody was going to help me do what I wanted to do. Now, if you think about that statement, look out for number one because no one else will. It's really a reflection of leadership. There was a culture that leaders didn't care enough to help us grow and advance. So if we wanted that to happen, we had to make it happen for ourselves. Hey, turns out I found there wasn't much truth in that saying at all. There were tons of people who were there to help me along the way. And more importantly, I learned that we don't get anywhere in life without the help of others. We don't accomplish much, if anything, on our own, by ourselves. So I'm talking about the importance of leaders making that shift from being selfish to being selfless, thinking about themselves less and others more. And that's what this concept's all about. Let me ask you this question. This is a pulse check on your view of leadership. You ready? How do you currently view your leadership role? Where's your focus? Are you focused on moving up the corporate ladder? Are you focused on how your position is going to serve you? Or how you're in a position to serve others? So think about that question, and I'm going to continue talking about this concept. See, it took me a lot of years to find my leadership style. I was confused. I thought I had it figured out, but I didn't, especially after retiring from the Navy. You see, I spent my career in leadership positions, but in the military, a lot of times, people are following leaders because there's a chain of command. There's a rank structure that tells us, I'm higher than you, so I give the orders and you follow them. And if you don't, you get in trouble. You aren't given a choice on whether you want to follow that person or not. You have to follow them. I mean, well, okay, you don't have to follow them, but there are consequences to the decision of not following them. It probably was more than 10 years ago, probably around 10 years ago, that I finally realized what I was really doing, what I really was a servant leader. Now, my definition of a servant leader is a leader who focuses on other people. They focus on growing and improving other people, giving others the opportunity to grow. People don't want to work for you and stay in the same position, doing the same thing their entire lives. People naturally want to get better and grow. So a servant leadership puts others before themselves, and it's genuinely just caring about the people you lead. That's my definition. To me, leadership is not about how far we can take ourselves in our careers and positions as leaders, how far we can move up that corporate ladder, but how far we can help others move, how far we can help them advance. When I was the chief information officer at the Naval Hospital down in Naples, Italy, I had several Italian nationals working in the IT department for me. One of them, Christina, was hired originally as the admin assistant for the department. So all the other people in the department were IT technical types. They were server engineers and network engineers, those, desktop support people, call center. During my tenure, Christina started taking these online Microsoft certification courses on her own time. She would do them during her lunch hour and then after hours. And then, these weeks would pass and she would plop another certificate up on the wall. She was also shadowing my webmaster. The webmaster is the person that's responsible for maintaining our website, both external and internal, the intranet website. So he had to take care of our websites for the hospital. She was such a quick learner, and I could tell she had a passion for graphic design. So eventually, I was actually given a second position on that web team, and I encouraged Christina to apply. And when she appeared on the job cert, I hired her. Now, I'm going to tell you, a lot of people in the department were not happy. They didn't think that she should have been hired. And there were even some that voiced their concerns to me. But the thing is, Christina had taken the opportunity to get her certs and to learn graphic design. And I had seen some of her work and I knew she had the talent to do the job. Now, Christina ended up producing an award-winning intranet site for the hospital, and she was actually later chosen to travel around Europe to help other Navy medicine sites implement their intranet sites. That's quite impressive, if you ask me. And Christina always stopped me and told me, thank you so much for this opportunity. She was always appreciative of having this opportunity to get that job. And I remember thinking back on my decision to put an admin assistant into a technical IT job. And this is what I told her. And this was the day that I actually realized that, dang, I'm a servant leader. And what I told her was, sometimes people just need the opportunity. They need that door to be opened for them in order for them to grow and to blossom and realize their potential. They just needed that one chance to show what they had. I knew she had what was needed to do the job. She just needed the opportunity to come knocking on her door. So, in your relationship with those you lead, are you adding to them or unknowingly detracting from them? If you aren't sure, you can ask yourself this: am I making things better for the people I lead? Think about that. Ask yourself. Think about the people you're leading right now. Think about your family. Are you the leader of your family? What about your community, your place of worship? Do you hold a leadership position there? Are you making things better for the people you lead? And there it is, you guys. That is the math of leadership. If you add value to your followers, you will multiply. But if you subtract, you have a negative impact on them, then it will only be a matter of time before your subtraction results in division. So, how can we add value to others, to those that we're leading? As I mentioned before, you may have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to shift your focus from yourself to other people. Here are some things that servant leaders do that result in adding value to those they lead. Okay, first and foremost, you have to value other people in order to add value to them. If you're not a people person, if you don't see the value in others, stop. Stop leading, because you're not leading and you're subtracting. So don't. You have to value others before you can add value to them. They have to come first. You have to put your faith in them before having faith in yourself and serve them first. If you don't value the people you lead, you aren't leading, and it isn't going to be long before all you have left to lead is yourself. If you struggle a little bit to put others first, here's a suggestion. I just thought about doing this because if you are challenged with like not always like, hey, what do I need to be doing? What do I need to do for others? Try doing some random acts of kindness for people you don't know. Be of service to others without the expectation of being recognized for it. And if you can get away with it, perform those acts anonymously. That will get you in the practice of not seeking recognition or taking credit for it. Do this enough times, and you'll start to move further away from your comfort zone of being a little selfish and move closer towards being more selfless. What are some of the ways you can do that? What can you do this week to be of service to someone else? Does a neighbor need to mow their lawn? Can you help them? Go sneak over there and mow it for you while you're out doing yours. That happened to me in Stafford, Virginia. We were out of town, and when we came back, I knew I was going to be facing the lawn from hell. It was going to be at least 2 feet high. It was in the middle of summer. Sure enough, we came home, and there was a freshly mown lawn. What about picking up the tab for someone's coffee? We see this all the time at Starbucks, right? Everybody's going to Starbucks. Pay for somebody's coffee. Standing behind them as they're going to pay, I've got this. Please allow me. Or if you're going through the drive-through, just pay it. Say, hey, I'm going to pay for, that person's order. They've probably already placed the order, and the person in the window probably already knows how much it's going to cost. Pick up the tab and drive off. Is there someone in your neighborhood that may be recovering from surgery that needs help getting groceries? What are you going to do this week to add value to somebody else? Okay, you all know that I'm a huge fan of personal growth, right? Why is it so important to me? Because I can add value to others by having something of value to give to them. See, I can't give what I don't have. Everything I have to give to others to add value to them, I gained through the effort of personal growth. And the same goes for you as a leader. Personal growth is really a life dedicated to learning and growing. As long as we continue to grow ourselves as leaders, the more we have to offer those who are following us. That's why personal growth is so important. It's not about what it's doing for me more than it's about what it's going to do for others that I'm trying to add value to. Does that make sense? Make yourself valuable to others. Okay, now here's a big one that really helped me grow in my role as a servant leader. And I feel like I really honed this skill when I was running a huge IT contract in Washington, D.C. Now, we have to be able to tap into what other people value in order to know what they need. It's kind of parallel to Maslow's hierarchy when it comes to motivation. Same thing. You have to know where people are before you know how to motivate them. As leaders, we have to understand what people value before we can add value to them. Not everyone values the same thing. So how do you do that? You have to put forth an effort to get to know people. You have to listen and learn before you can lead. Talk to those you lead. Get to know them. Let them tell you their stories. Ask questions. And whatever you do, don't ever make them feel like you're too busy for them. People used to come by my office and say, hey, do you have a second? I would look at them and say, I have 60 this minute. Have a seat. Believe me, that project, that issue, whatever's going on is going to be there. Take time and listen to your people. In, I think it was, well, it was definitely the early 80s. In the early 80s, Tom Peters wrote a book called In Search of Excellence. And in that book was a management style that's known as management by wandering or walking around. It depends on what school you're from, right? Some people call it management by wandering around. Some people call it management by walking around. It's the same thing, right? The concept is you get up from your desk and move around and engage in folks. Now, it was a business management process. So this was about not only getting out and talking with people, but it was also looking at processes and walking around the floor to check equipment. So I'm kind of stretching it a little bit, but the whole concept of walking around, you can't sit behind a desk in an office and still get to know your employees. You got to get up and get out and get moving, walk the floor. So I mentioned that big contract that I ran as the senior program manager in DC. When I started out, I had 160, 165 contractors on my team, and they were all spread out across like 9 different areas of IT support. I spent a lot of time walking and talking and got to know almost every one of them. I knew their first names. When I came in the building in the morning, I could greet them and call them by their first names. And for the most part, I knew a little bit about their personal backgrounds, where they were from, or, what's going on or what they like to do. I would relate with them on where they were from, what they like to do in their off time. I would connect to it. I'd be like, oh, I like that too. Or, oh, I've been there before. Or, oh, we're neighbors. I lived here. So I would use it as a point of connection. And it helped me to really get to know them better and remember them. Now, I have 2 really great examples of what I'm talking about here. And both of them actually involved the same young man. His name, Mike Daniels. And I came to learn a few things about Mikey from stopping by his desk and just chatting with him on occasion. One of the first things I used to do when I arrived at work, before anything, was I would get up from my desk as people were coming on board, and I would just walk around and I would just talk to them about what they had going on for the day. What did they need from me? How were things going? Well, one of the things I learned was that during Mikey's off time, he volunteered as a coach for a small boys baseball team. He would light up whenever he talked about coaching those boys. Well, the agency where we worked was located right across the street from the Washington Nationals baseball stadium. And my company, they had season tickets. They had really great seats. They were like on the 5th row, right along the first baseline. They had 4 seats there, and they didn't use them all the time, and they would give those tickets away on occasion to some of the employees. Now, because of our location, a lot of times corporate would call me and offer those 4 season tickets. So one day when I got that call, the tickets were available and I asked for them. Now, these were electronic tickets, so they would just send them to me by email. And when I got that email, I forwarded it to Mikey and said, hey, take a few of your players to go see this game this Friday. Man, that guy had a smile from ear to ear. He always called me Mr. Storch, no matter what. And he came to my office and he said, thank you, Mr. Storch. My boys have never seen a professional baseball game before. See, you have to know what your people value before you can add value to them. Now, listen, Mikey started off on my contract as a desktop support engineer. Those are the guys that run around the building helping customers with their computer issues. I can't log in, or it won't power on, or look at this screen, it's doing this. We in the IT industry call that tier 2 support, or tier 2. During one of our conversations, Mikey told me that he was really interested in joining the tier 3 teams. Now, tier 3, those are the really technical guys. Those are where my system administrators and my network engineers were. And Mikey wanted to be a sysadmin. Now, I told Mikey, I don't have a position for you, but here's what you do. Spend some time shadowing the system engineers and take some certification courses. Take a look at what's required and start taking those classes now and get prepared. Because come the day I have an opening, if you're qualified, I can put you in that position. And what did Mikey do? He did just that. He started shadowing them. I would be leaving at night, and Mikey would still be there after working all day, sitting side by side as sysadmin, learning how to become a system administrator. And when that position came open on my contract, I promoted Mikey into that new spot. Now, the point here is, had I not had these conversations with Mikey, I would have never known about his desire to move up onto that team and become a system administrator. See, you can learn a lot from listening. So as leaders, we need to know and relate to what others value. If you want to add value to others, serve them. Having the ability to do this will allow you to become a better leader. You will grow, and so will those who follow you. They will achieve more, and they'll be loyal to you. John Maxwell has a really great quote that I love, and as a servant leader, it really resonates strongly with me. He says, "People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care." Start with them first. Add value to them, and your role as a leader will become so much easier. All right, you guys, I hope you all are doing your scaling questions after each one of these. Where are you with this concept? How well do you think you're adding value to others in your role as a leader? Scale it on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, that's going to do it for me this week. Again, please feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. I'm going to be posting the replay of this video again in the Lion's Den. You can comment on that one as well and catch the replay if you need to. But let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, thanks so much for tuning in again this week for another weekly roar. I appreciate your support, you guys. I'm going to be back here again next week, same place, same time, to speak about another concept in the foundations of leadership. Next week, I want to talk to you all about the importance of building a solid foundation on which your leadership will be firmly planted. Without this, you're going to have a hard time leading. So I hope you're going to join me next week in the Lion's Den for the weekly roar. Okay, you guys, until we meet again, remember, be powerful, but stay poised just like a lion. See you later, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Weekly Roar live event at lionenterprise.com. If you enjoyed this video, please tell others to join us each week here in the Lion's Den. Thanks again, and see you next week.